So welcome to tonight's EU Hustings at Lakeside, North Harbour, which is being hosted by the News and Verisona Law. And joining us tonight are a panel of experts and political enthusiasts who will be able to help answer your questions and address the topics surrounding the referendum.
My question is, with the ever-increasing and present danger from Putin's Russia and his aggressive policies, how can we trust the important issue of our security to Brussels?
So my background, just so that you are aware, is that before I joined industry, I spent 12 years serving the Royal Navy. And since leaving the Royal Navy, I have been pretty heavily involved in the security industry here in the UK. So that's half of what we do in Britten-Norman is security related. The other half is sort of commercial operations. And there is nothing that I can see in any of the arguments that supports the idea that the EU will add any value to security in this country. We have, without doubt, the best intelligence services in the world here, right here in the UK. And what we do, I mean, if the argument were the other way around, which is what can Britain do for Europe? How can we support places like France, as we're doing this week, by sending the Met Police and members of our security and intelligence services across to Paris to try and stop terrorist attacks? Totally, I get that argument. There's a lot that we as Britain can offer Europe. But actually, as one of the strongest intelligence communities in the world, one of the Five Eyes nations, which is USA, Canada, UK, Australia, New Zealand, there is really nothing, I don't think, that Brussels can offer us.
When you're looking at, United Kingdom and Northern Ireland, and you're thinking about how we keep ourselves safe, so people, if we're going to be subject to a terrorist attack, it's either going to be internally, someone in this country, or it'll be someone firing a missile at this country. So it's either someone who's come into the country, who builds a bomb and lets it off somewhere, or as I say, it's an airstrike, a aggressive airstrike from a nation that wants to attack Britain directly. Now, one of the key things to preventing a bomb going off in Britain is control of our borders, and is knowing and being able to stop and remove people entering this country.
As for some of the things which have been said on the other side, our we could have border controls which would make us safe. I remember being almost blown up in Northern Ireland by a bomb, and the bomb had been imported. That bomb came from outside of the EU as well as outside of the United Kingdom. Terrorism knows no borders. The important thing about our security is we need to be in control of our security, and being in control means that we work with our partners within the European Union. It means we work with our partners in Nato. It means we work with other people who will work with us. Security is an irrelevance in some ways to this question of the European Union. So I would suggest to you that the EU can do some things, but it would not be at the expense of NATO or our own defences.
We have the best security services in the world. We have NATO for our military. There's no doubt that recent experience shows that European security services certainly need overhauling and some work needs doing there. But what's important is that we continue to work with our European colleagues, sharing information and collating intelligence to ensure that we maintain our safety.
I think one of the things I find most offensive about the suggestion that our security, national security, will be weakened by coming out of the EU is the fact that there's a suggestion that if we don't want to be in a political union with a load of other countries, that if they have intelligence that an attack may happen on British soil, that they're not going to tell us about it. Is that really the suggestion of these people who are saying that our security will be at greater risk? Because if that is what they are saying, are these people really who we want to be working with? Are these people really the ones that we can trust with promises? Are these people really the ones we think we can negotiate with?
International alliances are absolutely vital, and it's been mentioned our membership of NATO, and it's been mentioned how we act under the auspices of the UN as well. But the European Union, I think it's undeniable that the European Union has helped to contribute to peace in Western Europe, the longest period of peace in Western Europe, certainly in the last 1,000 years. A continent that was scarred by wars over the centuries, and the 20th century saw 50 million people die in the two world wars. So the European Union, because I think it is inconceivable currently to imagine those sort of conflicts taking place in Western Europe that took place in the last century, but we do risk destabilising the whole structure. Clearly, if we leave the European Union, that could create a domino effect within the rest of the European Union. We see insurgent movements right across Western Europe. So we do risk that stability if we leave the European Union.
Norway, as we all know, is not in the EU. It's not a nuclear power. It doesn't have a seat on the UN Security Council. What it does have is a 120-mile land border with Russia. But is anyone for a second suggesting that Norway is an unsafe place to live?
EU complements rather than complements NATO and so on. I mean, the EU does have military operations. They did one in Macedonia in 2003, so they do cooperate, but it's state-by-state agreement. It's not something the EU imposes. I think the other thing to remember as well, the Americans are very keen for the Europeans to take more responsibility for how we defend Europe, and that is, I think, something we have to bear in mind. And we can't defend Europe unless we've got a good economy. So getting the European economy back on track and not damaging free trade is really important to make sure that doesn't happen.